All right, so this is a practice certification exam problem, and we've got a part. We're told in the quiz on Canvas that this is in MMGS and that it is a plain carbon steel part. So I'm going to set those things right off the bat. I don't have any A, B, C dimensions on this. Probably if I was making this a more typical certification exam, I would have replaced some of these values with A, B, C just to give you some global variables and then change them at some point and reevaluate. But this one I just have general sizes. I'm going to start on the top plane. I'm going to draw kind of this geometry I had here for this top circle. So I'm going to do that. I'll make that my origin just for convenience. I'm going to set that as an outer radius of 40 millimeters. I'm not going to do the hole yet because I know I'm going to add some of the ribs and things to this. And so I'll wait and do the holes towards the end. I can add them now if I want to, but I'm worried that this can cause issues as I add more geometry. So I'm going to give that a diameter of 40 and a height of 50. And a problem like this, I'm not going to use a midpoint just because I have other things kind of coming off the bottom of this. So if I make this the bottom of my cylinder, it's easier for me to get kind of this 30 millimeter offset off of that because I'm not dividing the 50 in half. So this is one of the examples we're not using that midpoint extrude. Can save some time actually. This cylinder coming off to the right, I want to draw that next. So I'm going to go to the right plane and I'm going to sketch that. The reason I'm drawing this next is because I want to connect these two bodies with these kind of thin walled parts. So I need to have both those in place in order to do that. So let's do just the outer diameter again on this. So I'm going to say it has an outer diameter of 30 millimeters. And it also has a height from the bottom of my previous cylinder of 30 millimeters, kind of conveniently there. And it doesn't say it, but I'm going to assume that the origin here is vertical below the origin of my part, just because it looks like it is, and that seems reasonable. I'm going to extrude that. Again, I didn't do this on a reference plane that's offset across, just so you get to save time. So I'm offsetting the start of this cylinder so that it's 60 millimeters from the center of my original cylinder. Again, that original cylinder was on the origin of my part, so that comes out fairly easily. And again, it has a height of 30, so kind of all 30s down here on this first starting point. Again, having those kind of consistent measurements is helpful as well. Maybe that's a global variable inside of a more realistic part design. Now you start adding my ribs. So this is kind of the hard part, getting the geometry where this rib tapers out. I'm going to do it the lazy way, or what I call the lazy way. And I'm going to just kind of start by drawing the edge of the rib. I think I might get that last one there. Oh, sorry. I have good / bad habits of using hotkeys, so that's my escape hotkey again. So I make that collinear. I'll put this point on the end of that line. And we're told that that has a radius of 5 millimeters. So I'm going to give it a radius of 5 millimeters. And again, I'm extending this out past the edge of my part because I know I'm going to have to trim it down using some of those tangent relations. I know the edge doesn't actually go past the center line on this top point. So maybe it makes more sense to have this point here only go to the center point. Just have a little bit less extra geometry. But I'm going to overextend it. So I'm going to extrude this out. And it's going to have a thickness of 2 millimeters. Thickness here is 2 millimeters. And I do want it to go up into the part, not down out, just because the way it is on my drawing. And then I'll make this width. I want it to be as wide as the widest thing in my part. So I'm going to use a mid plane and give it a distance 40, which is the width of that top cylinder there. That looks okay. So I'm going to accept that. Now I'm going to start doing my cuts. So I'm going to go to my top plane. I'm going to draw the cutout for this part. I'm coming across over. Actually, this goes up to this edge here. So let me redraw that. So I'm going to go from this point up to here and then across and down. I do need to actually include a little bit of this section of this circle. So I'm actually gonna have this come off of that part. I'm gonna convert this circle, make this tangent to the circle, and then make this tangent as well. And I'm just going to zoom in on this and trim away the excess. So this is a kind of hard to see, but I do have a little bit of an arc right there. And I know I have that little piece of an arc because if I look at this drawing here, you'll notice that this rib doesn't go all the way to the center line on that circle. And then I'm given that the distance here, this offset is actually between the side of this circle on the bottom and this edge, and that's 2.5 millimeters. So this is going to give me the cutout that I want. So I'm going to do features, extrude and cut. I'm going to do through all in both directions, and that should cut out that side. And it gives me that nice offset that I wanted there. A little bit complicated, but gives me the geometry that I want. I'm going to do almost exactly the same thing from the right plane for this other circle. I'm going to convert this circle. Then I'm going to draw my triangle coming out to this tangent one. This one's actually going to go out past the horizontal line, so be careful you don't get that horizontal relation. That'll prevent you from getting the tangent relation that you want. Then I'm going to convert these side edges as well, just so I don't have to put in any dimensions. And then trim out the excess portion of the circle. That should give me a closed geometry. And so I'll try and extrude cut that out. Since this starts all the way out on one side, I don't have to go through all both directions, just one direction is fine. And that gives me the bottom portion of that. I'm gonna take those two and try and mirror them about my front plane to get the other half of it. Hopefully that'll work fine. That looks pretty good. I'll go ahead and add the center cutouts to these. So I'll sketch on the top plane, and I'm just going to do an offset, reverse it. I'm doing that just to get the relation that I want. I guess go. This is not worth doing. So let's make a concentric after the fact. I was just trying to be quick about getting any circle of the size that I wanted. Extrude cut through all, make sure it's going in the right direction. Do the same thing down here. I can go to the right plane, or I can go to the edge face in here. Let's do it on the edge there. This one I'm pretty sure is going to be fine. I'll hover over the edge trying to get the center constraint. That works out pretty well. And I'll give it a diameter of 20. And extrude cut it. And I'll do through all. And the last thing is this top ridge going across the top. And I'm going to assume it's 2, so this is the width of the bottom edge. To get that, I'm going to use a rib. So I'm going to start with the line coming across here. I want to have a tangent arc. Tangent arc, there we go. Down to here. And I want this other line, and I want that to be vertical and tangent. So let's add vertical and tangent. Go. That's a little underdefined. I'm just going to assume that this arc here and this arc are the same length. So I'm going to put the center of this one horizontally aligned with this endpoint here. Which again, that probably should have been somewhere in the notes, or at least a center point mark. I didn't modify the drawing on this as I was waiting for you guys to work on it to try and give that relation. With that arc drawn, I can exit that sketch, go into the rib tool, give it a thickness of 2 millimeters, and mid-plane looks fine, direction looks fine, so I'll accept that. The big advantage of using the rib tool there is that I don't have to worry about overlap between my extrude and this part. I also don't have to draw the bottom half or convert that bottom entity, get the other side of that. So that works out pretty well. And I have a mass of 392. So 390.92 grams. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm gonna go ahead and again stop recording. I'll post that up.